Jared, we talked about it when we were there, and I asked you your BPI power rankings. I'm like, who do you think is most likely to win, who's least likely to win? And we watched the pay-per-view for the first time together, and you told me that Samoa Joe was last in that line, but I also said leading up to this that there's intrigue with every one of these guys. I think that everyone has their own storyline heading into it, and I think Samoa Joe may be the most intriguing. It's interesting to see what's going to do because, as we talked about, I think that if Samoa Joe gets thrown around like a redheaded stepchild, I think that's going to destroy what he is as a competitor. So I think it has to be, at least from a physicality standpoint, it's got to be like a very close match. And I don't know if Samoa Joe is going to be able to pull off the victory, especially with SummerSlam in the near future after that. So I think it's competitive. I think it's interesting, and it's one of the most intriguing matchups. And I'm very intrigued to see specifically Monday Night Raw, Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar kind of get in their reaction.
Now, Brandon, let's talk about this match overall. What was your opinion on a 5-star scale, the main event? I'm going to give it a 4. I really enjoyed this match. It was head and shoulders, I think, above every other match in the card.
Absolutely.
A lot of action. Mm-hmm. And unlike a triple threat match where you have the one guy kind of sitting off on the side, you had a lot of guys sitting off on the side. So there was that kind of different combos of people facing each other. You had obviously about 3 or 4 different combos of people facing each other with 1 or 2 people off on the side. Very entertaining, very fast-paced, frenetic. It didn't feel too long. It didn't feel too short. Like I said, I'm giving it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm with you. I give you a 4 out of 5. For me, being a big Finn Balor fan, the only way I turn it into a 5-star match is if Balor was the victorious one in the match. But it was a solid match overall. Like you said, to jump on your point, the match, it just felt like the length was right. It was right where you needed to be. It wasn't too short like we've seen those Goldberg, Brock Lesnar ridiculous minute matches or 30-second matches. It wasn't too long where you felt like you're all right. Can we just get this over with? It was, like you said, it was a really good match. I thought at points you could see everybody winning, and I mean I think it was well done. I wanted to see Finn Balor win, but I am totally good, especially after what happened on Monday Night Raw. I am in love with this next matchup between Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar. The Coquina clutch on Paul Heyman, that was awesome.
That was classic, and I want to jump in here too. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars just to break up some of the monotony here. I also wanted Finn Balor to win. I thought he was going to win as soon as he dropped on Roman Reigns. I'm like, here we go, 1, 2, 3. Samoa Joe comes in again. You get that shock factor, not the Jinder Mahal level, but you still get that shock factor, which it seems like something that WWE is trying to break the predictability factor and try to go with some of these guys and give guys different opportunities. And I think it's smart. And I think it's going to be great.
So now that Extreme Rules is behind us, we can skip to Monday night. The Mohegan Sun Arena in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, home of 8,000 or so to 10,000 people it could hold. I would say Monday night, it was pretty close to capacity, was not sold out. In fact, luckily in the section that me and Paul Boy Green-Esden were sitting, it was actually, I want to say not nearly sold out, but enough where we had an entire row in front of us to put our feet up, which was very great. But for the most part, the arena was very filled. I would probably say 95% capacity, maybe in the 93% capacity range. But either way, on the television side, both sides of the arena,
you're not going to tell the difference.
So I would say probably about 8,000 or 9,000 people. It could hold 10,000 with people on the floor for a concert. So I'll say about 8,000 to 8,500 people were there. And Monday Night Raw, very good for our experience there. Very easy in and out. No major lines, no major holdups.
Let me ask you this: how was the concessions in the T-shirt section and everything? How was the merch?
I will say the concessions were, arenas versus like ballparks and stuff like that are much different. For an arena, it was pretty average. I've been to the War Memorial here in Syracuse. I would give it a step up from that because they did have some other options, some ice cream options. I had nachos that were more than just nachos, but from like a stand that's specialized in nachos versus just a typical plastic with cheese type setup. But like overall, it was it wasn't too crowded. It wasn't too it was easy in, easy out. But my takeaway from being at Raw Live, and Paul, I know you're going to feel this exact same sentiment. The flow of Monday Night Raw when you're there in person is awful. You want to talk about there was not any entrances, I want to say the entire night, maybe one for the main event, but for the most part, I don't even think it was a main event. I'm going to say I don't remember one back-to-back entrance. And what I mean by that is if it was two people in a ring together that were going to fight, they would play one entrance, they would cut to commercial, they would come back, play something on the video screen, cut to commercial, come back, start that guy's entrance over again to make everybody at home feel like that entrance has been playing the whole time.
Which we know it hasn't.
Then play there was no, the tag team titles are on the line. Here come the defenders. Here come the champ. Nope. It was always a delay. It was always somebody come to the ring, commercial break. Then somebody talk.
Couldn't agree more.
Break.
Couldn't agree more. It was unfortunate to kind of see because, like, it's good. It was bittersweet to see some of the behind-the-scenes action going on here. But, yeah, the flow was awful. I will give a shout-out to the concessions combos, which was nice. A popcorn and 2 drinks. Me and Jarod each got a drink, and I got a popcorn combo for really cheap, $6. So shout out to Wilkes-Barre there. Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. So, yeah, they don't have those they don't even have those kind of combos at my movie theater. Let's be perfectly honest here. But staying on point, yeah, the flow was awful, so it was kind of awkward to see some of that. I thought on SmackDown, I don't want to jump too all over the place, but make sure that we get all our points across before we get to break, is that on SmackDown, the mics weren't that great. I don't know if it was our seating. I'm not sure if it was like the mics weren't that loud because they were facing away from us, facing the TV side.
So the
acoustics.
But,
that was kind of suspect at first, and then we had some kid with his Ethiopian family of 12 and an argument right behind him. So that was unfortunate because that kind of threw off some of the beginning of the night. People show up, please, more than 5 minutes before the show starts, even though that whole thing happened 20 minutes after the show started. So it was kind of a cluster from that standpoint. But to the main generic point that Jarod pointed out, the flow was awful, and it was unfortunate to see. And it makes the 3.5 hours seem even worse from behind-the-scenes perspective. But it was awesome to check off the bucket list seeing both Monday Night Raw and SmackDown.
So how was the Elias Sampson thing when he pretty much did?
I think we were buying our concessions. Actually,
we were
literally, we didn't see that Dean Ambrose little. That was the only part of the whole show that we did miss.
Gotcha.
But it was hard to not miss something because you had no idea. We would say, oh, here's a match. Let's go to the restroom or concession after the match. Then they'd go to commercial. And we had no idea how long. Some commercial breaks were excruciatingly long. Some were very short, but either way, like I said, the flow. And the reason I brought up, if you want to talk about arena size and such, is because the Blue Cross Arena actually can hold about 11 to 12,000 people for a full event. But SmackDown, they were not close to that. So when we show up to SmackDown, where we were sitting, very packed, very condensed, and that's because half of the arena was tarped off. Only the television side and some of the lower levels on the non-television side actually had people sitting in them. The entire upper bowl from everything that wouldn't be on TV was completely tarped off, which made it so that everybody was kind of condensed in smaller areas. I'd probably say about 5,500, maybe 6,000 were there for SmackDown.
That's it? Wow.
Only one entrance to get into the Blue Cross Arena, so it made it seem like we were going into some very large event because there was quite a crowd, quite a line to get in. And unlike Raw, when Raw started and kicked off the air, everybody was in their seats. Some people before the show were obviously making their way to their seats, but when Shane McMahon was in the ring to start off SmackDown, it was like the dark matches. There were probably half of the crowd was still making their way to their seats, and there was tons of confusion. I don't want to generalize, but there was a much more kid-family audience at SmackDown, which led towards more confusion of seats because there was fathers and mothers that had 5 or 6 children that were coming up to some of these upper deck seats and kind of not knowing where their seats were. Yeah. So, but when it comes to the actual show, let's say seat for seat. Let's not compare, where our seats were. Let's say we had the same seat for the same shows. I would say that the SmackDown definitely has a better flow. And while it is longer, I do like it seems better broken up. 205 Live gives it like a different feel. And then they come back. And I'm not sure if they do this every single week, but I probably assume that they do. They come back with a main roster match after 205 Live. So they kind of make it so, if you were not thinking about sticking around for 205 Live, and they let you know as well that it's not just going to be a dark match. If they say, before 205 Live starts, we got this match waiting for you. It was Jinder Mahal versus Randy Orton. Randy Orton didn't make an appearance on SmackDown, but he made an appearance after the show went off the air. And I think that's to encourage people and give them a better feel. They don't want to leave with Noam Dar, versus TJP as their main event.
Yeah,
they
who
want to
wants to do
lead
that?
with the WWE main roster. So overall, I think it had a better flow, much quicker. The matches on Raw were longer, but we got more matches on SmackDown, and there wasn't a lot of the entrance, then commercial break. That happened maybe once. Other than that, a lot more matches, a lot more action in a smaller, condensed period of time. So I'm going to give the thumbs up to going to see a Smack. If you're going to pick one or the other, I probably thought about it before we got there. I'm going to say still, I'm going to give the thumbs up to going to a SmackDown.
Now, let me ask you this. I know you guys are bouncing. I know we're bouncing.
Let me just throw
Yeah,
one more nugget in here. Yeah, because on Jarod's point, I think they sandwiched it beautifully because you had nice matches to start, but for SmackDown Live, you had kind of the Shane McMahon and all the women in the ring thing, and then at the end, also getting the live WWE roster between Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal. And another point to that, besides the flow seeming nice and breaking it up with 205 Live, it encourages people to stick around for 205 Live. There were people in front of us that were like, are we going to stick around for 205 Live? And they heard that Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal was going to end it. Not that we haven't seen that match before, but they were like, all right, we'll stay. So I thought it's a nice whether marketing for the people that show up so that you can kind of encourage more people to 205 Live. Jarod, when I was at your house for the pay-per-view, your girlfriend was like, 205 Live match is coming up. Like, she thought it sucked, and so did my girlfriend. Both of them were like, oh, boy, here we go. So I think it's almost force-feeding some of the people that are there to say, let's give it a try and give it a whirl. So I thought that was nice, at least from a marketing perspective. And also for a guy that doesn't watch 205 Live all the time, I thought it was a nice kind of, like, introduction to seeing it in a live performance.
I want to say, before we're talking about 205 Live, we saw it on Monday Night Raw, and we saw it very much on 205 Live when we were talking about the cruiserweights, the little behind-the-scene nugget, something that I had no idea. I did my homework and actually tuned into another 205 Live from the past just to double-check. So when you turn on 205 Live and they have a video package before 205 Live starts, hyping up a rivalry, hyping up a feud. This week it was TJ Perkins versus Neville. That is not just random. I don't know what they would do without the video package. And the reason I say this is from the minute SmackDown ends, they jump in the ring to change it to the Cruiserweight 205 Live ring. Now, I've seen them put ladders in the ring. I've seen them put tables in the ring. Not really a hard thing to do. You can do it in a commercial break. When 205 Live was on the air and Noam Dar was walking down to the ring, this is after a long vignette about the championship match we were going to see. This was after them coming back and showing the camera of the crowd, which you can strategically see. They don't show the ring. Then this was after they pointed it to the announce table to talk to the announcers. There was still 15 to 18 guys in the ring putting on the ropes, putting everything together. I mean, and even when Noam Dar came to the ring, the camera you can see is zoomed in on his face because there's still so many people in the ring setting this up. We went, and when we were watching it, doing it on Raw, it was the same deal. The matches were like starting, and we're like, they must be having the camera facing the back of this guy's head or zoomed in on their faces because there's still like 19 guys in the ring tightening the ropes, putting on the turnbuckles. So it is not a quick transition. And let me tell you, it is not when 205 Live hits the air after SmackDown, it is not like it is a 10-minute deal. Literally.
Yeah, they got to be more. I mean, it was cool from behind the scenes seeing how they do it, but purple tape on all the ropes. There has to be an easier way to do this. I know that if there was, WWE would be doing it, but to see like 40 people get in the ring and then run tape like 20 times over off every rope and then move the 205 Live stuff down and this and that, I mean, that was a cluster and a half.
It seemed like it would be easier to be taping 205 Live before SmackDown, maybe than airing it after SmackDown, but taping it before.
You mentioned that when we were there.
The other transition's easy. I mean, when they went from, like on Raw, when they went from a Cruiserweight match back to Raw, didn't even notice. But the way to turn it into a Cruiserweight match, I mean, it is a crazy amount of work that they put into what is definitely a C or B- part of the show.
There you go. Now let me ask you guys. I know. Getting back to the show itself. What do you guys make of this whole Enzo Amore Big Cass thing? I mean, I know it's been brought up where Enzo was attacked, and then this past week Big Cass was attacked. I mean, where do you guys stand? I mean, do you think it's one of? Do you think Enzo attacked him and Big Cass?
Well, we got that as a Twitter question of the week, so I don't want to give up too much here.
Twitter question of the week. So
yes, let's stick to Monday Night Raw, and I'm kind of sorry. I promised Paul, because I thought it's a 3-hour show, that the Hardy Boys would be there. They were not at Monday Night Raw, but it wasn't just random. They were home, and Matt Hardy was home, and Jeff Hardy was assisting Matt Hardy in congratulating what is supposed to be very soon Rebby Sky, Matt Hardy's wife, welcoming a new baby into this world. Jeff Hardy, the uncle.